so as you can tell, I got the motor all out. I got it on the engine stand, and I actually just pulled off the oil pan. So just quickly going through, inspecting what I can see for now. My original plans were just put bearings in this thing, but looking at it further now, I think I got to take it completely apart. I remember when I first built this motor, I was 18, 19 years old, so I wasn't really all that intelligent with high horsepower motors and how to build them and blah, blah, blah. So just bear with me. This is my first motor I've ever built for a high horsepower application. So I remember when I first built this, it's got, I bored it over 20 thou, and it's got Wiseco pistons and K1 rods in it. So when I got it bored over 20 thou, I think I went with Wiseco's spec for piston to cylinder wall clearance, and I want to say, I'll verify at the bottom of this video, I think it was 4 thou or 4.5 thou. Looking back now, if I knew what I know now back then, I would have done it differently and maybe opened that up a little bit more. Just from what I see, I think that's what's going on here. You can see most of the coating, if not pretty much all of it's worn off the side of the skirts there, so it's starting to get kind of scuffed up. I think I'm going to pull this completely apart, just verify. If anything, I'd like to get one more season out of this motor. I don't want to go and buy another set of pistons because I think they're 800 US or something. I'll take it all apart, verify that I can still reuse everything, put a set of rings in it, hone the cylinder walls out, and cross my fingers. So, hey guys, so as you can tell, I kind of jumped ahead on you here. Something went wrong with my SD cards. Every time I tried to take a video, it would tell me that they were full when there's nothing on them. So actually just came back, bought 2 brand new SD cards. Everything seems to be working like it should. So yeah, like I said, jumped ahead on you just because of that. So I kept going. I honed out each cylinder. Instead of using a ball hone this time like that, I used a stone like this. You can see in there. It's not as coarse. I've already went ahead and I've already honed these cylinder walls once before. So I just don't want to distort them anymore or mess them up anymore as they are. I just did use the stone there, and yeah, so it's all honed, blocks all clean, surfaces are all cleaned up. I actually went ahead, I already checked all the bearing clearances for the main caps, so I got right around 2.5 thou, a little bit more than 2.5 thou on each one. When I measure them, I don't use plastic gauge. It's just something I never really use. I find it's not as accurate as using measuring tools, so when I do them, I use a bore gauge. And Mike was right around 2.5 thou, like I said, for each one. I'm sure everyone's opinions are different for specs. Maybe that's a little bit loose for someone or a little bit tight for someone. But I like it right around 2.5 thou, 3 thou on the crank. And then I run 2.5 on the connecting rods. It all depends on the application for bearing clearances, really. Drag racing or oil temps don't get that high. So you can run a little bit bigger of a clearance just because your oil isn't getting as hot and as thin. But say if this was a road course car or it's running more than freaking 20 minutes at a time, that oil is just going to get that much hotter and that much thinner. So you use a tighter bearing clearance. But yeah, it's one of those things. People have their own opinions, so that's just what I do. 2.5, 3 thou on the crank, and then 2.5 on each rod. So yeah, that's just what I do. And then also another quick little tip here with the thrust bearing. If you've been following this channel for a little while, the first year I built this motor and had it out, I noticed I was making metal, but I was too stupid to take it apart to inspect it. That following winter I took it apart and I found that the thrust bearing and crank was completely screwed out of it. When you see me put this motor together, I'll try to remember it, but if you look on some of the end caps, you can actually see a machine mark in it. That's because of the throw on the crank actually hitting the end cap. That's how bad and how much slop the crank had in it. Reason behind that is the automatic transmission, the converter. The converter can actually balloon. So when you build the transmission, you're supposed to restrict the inlet to the converter. So you tap the original factory hole in the pump, and you put a bolt in it and you drill it out to whatever, say 50 thou, 30 thou. I did have that done, but it wasn't restricted enough, obviously, for something like this. So I ended up just drilling it, I want to say to 30 thou or something like that, but don't quote me on that. And since then, it seems to fix the problem. So that's the bearing that was in it for the past 2 years. You can see there's a couple marks on it, but nothing nothing bad at all. So in the front side, obviously there's no wear at it at all because there shouldn't be really anything pushing on the front of the crank. Yeah, so quick little tip here. If you can see this and it focuses, I actually file my bearing, just file a little groove here so it sends oil to the back side of this because that's where it's going to be pressing on. So just sends oil back to here, and then I put a couple slots just to let that oil get in there that much easier, give it a little bit more cushion. So, and when I set up my thrust bearings, I probably go a little bit too in depth, but just trying to learn from my mistakes. When I first buy the bearings, make sure that each ear on the upper and lower bearing is equal, because you don't want one sticking out more than the other, so the crank's wearing on half the bearing, not the whole unit. So I just measure that, make sure it's all good. If it isn't, then just wet sand it till it's nice and flat and everything mics up fine. But slap your crank in, slap the main cap on, hit the end of the crank, get that upper cap centered to the block, make sure both those bearings are perfectly in line. I even sometimes put a feeler gauge in there just to make sure that it's all nice and perfect. And then yeah, you're good to go. So I'm gonna slap the crank back in. I cleaned it all up, lube up my bearings, torque everything, and then it's on to I guess filing rings and doing piston stuff. Hey guys, so I got my pistons all ready to go in. I checked my rod bearing clearances. Everything came up to 2.5 thou, so super happy with that. Actually gapped all my rings already. So my top ring was 28 thou and my second ring was 30. So it's a little bit excessive for a small block like this, but I plan on beating on it pretty hard, so I'd rather have a little bit of blow by. That's why I have a catch can than one of the rings button up against each other. So it is what it is. I just thought I'd show you quickly the skirts on these. Like I said, when I took this motor apart, I just didn't like the way the skirts were looking on it. They're starting to get pretty scuffed up, but as you can tell, most of the protection is worn off of them. So I've had these pistons for 4 years now, so they've done their tour of duty, but figured to get another season out of them. They're not freaking scratched all the crap or anything, so I just quickly wet sanded them, give them a nice finish. It sucks that the coating's gone, but it is what it is. Piston isn't garbage because the coating's gone, so, and it beats paying another $800 US on a set of pistons. So yeah, got another season out of these ones. We'll get these pistons slapped in it. Hey, so just messing around with the oil pump here. This is a new oil pump, new used oil pump I just cleaned up. This is my old one that was out of it. It's got a couple scratches in it, so I figured I'd replace it since I had this one laying around. So I cleaned this one up like new. It's ready to go back in. I thought I'd just show you this quick little tip here. This pump, it has a relief built into it. So underneath this Allen head screw that goes in here is your poppet and your spring. Lee, he owns the Chevy 2 that's on this channel. I think it's gone 871 at 150 plus miles an hour, and it's a bone stock 6 liter. This is just a quick little tip he gave me. This will be my first time using it and trying it out, but thought I'd share it. He actually puts a 60 or a 70 thou washer on top of the spring like this, just to give it that little extra oil pressure. It just crushes that spring a little bit more, so it takes that much more to relieve it, which spikes up your oil pressure. So I didn't actually have a 60 thou one, but I found a 50 thou washer. For the hell of it, I'll give it a try. If it bumps up my oil pressure, that's good. So yeah, I'll get that all back together and bolt it onto the motor. Okay, so one last little tip here. I don't know if you could see through the time lapse there, but I was messing around with some feeler gauges when I was installing this oil pump. You actually have to center this oil pump to the crank. I'm sure some people don't do that, but I've done it ever since the beginning. The way I do that is I just end up using a feeler gauge to find out the maximum gap in between the gear for the oil pump to the crank. So I usually find it's around 8 thou. So I just double check, make sure it's around 8 thou. Make sure it's nice and tight, and then I just split the difference. So then I put 4 thou up top. So if 4 thou snug, then there's probably 4 thou gap in underneath. And then from there, I just go around, tighten all my bolts, and that pump should be centered on that crank. So yeah. Hey guys, so it's been a couple of days now since I've taken a video for this upload. As you can tell, the motor, I've got the lifter valley all on and front cover. Head studs are screwed in. I painted everything black this year. Just I figured try to break everything up just because there is going to be a lot of aluminum everywhere. Just try to put some black in there, break it up a little bit here and there. So I think that turned out pretty good. Hope you guys like how it looks. But reason for not making that much progress. Originally just going to throw my cylinder heads on, but I figured I had some spare valve seals upstairs, so figured I'd take the heads apart quickly and just give them a quick look over and replace the seals while I'm at it. So upon disassembly, I found this. I'm filming with my GoPro here, so hopefully you guys can see. In around the exhaust valve, if you can see that, it's all eroded around the seat. So it's eroded there and up there as well. I hope this thing can focus, but that's the same on every single valve. So I'm not sure what I did. Must have ran it lean or something was going on. But the cylinder head's toast. It's also cracked in between each valve as well. So yeah, cylinder head's toast. I originally wanted to switch these cylinder heads anyways to a smaller chamber, just because it is a big turbo. I want to get my compression up just to try to help spool that turbo a little bit more. But just because it was crunch time, I decided to throw these back on, but it is what it is. So from there, I tried looking for another set of cylinder heads. Lee, he had a set of 706s, which I believe that's like a 5.3 or something. It's got the smaller intake valves and stuff in it, but he opened them up to the big 2-inch valves. So started screwing around with those, but the thing with those cylinder heads were they're Castech heads. That's what he called them. I don't know if that was a certain year they built them, and they were prone for cracking in around the cylinder head bolts. I decided to take them from him because they're already ported and they flowed really nice numbers. So I thought I'd give it a try to salvage them, but I've been messing around for the last couple of days trying to weld them up. But I just got to the point now where the crack actually opened up some more in around the cylinder head bolt. I don't know if you can see it. See it? I was trying to build it up here, but now it's in way underneath there, so it's next to impossible to get my TIG torch there, and it's just one of those things. I think I just gotta suck it up and find another set of heads and port them. So I just didn't want to go through the trouble to port another set of cylinder heads, but looks like I'm gonna do it anyways. And another thing, I could probably find a set of 5.3 heads, like a 826 or 706 again, but I didn't want to sacrifice the big valves in the 317s, the 2-inch stuff. So I do have a set of 317 heads here, which just I've had on my shelf for the last couple of years. Maybe I'll just go ahead and port those again and just run another set of 317s, but we'll see what I come up with. And yeah, along with that, I'm also checking out my rocker arms, and there's a couple snap rings snapped off and broken off on these, so I need to contact them or see if I can find the proper snap rings. So just one problem after the other. Feeling kind of defeated right now. Just everything I've been trying to do for the past couple of days, I just can't win, but it is what it is. We'll get it figured out, but I think that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed some of the tips here and there. Hopefully you guys learned some. If you didn't, hopefully you guys just enjoyed the video. So yeah, as always guys, I'm just going to keep picking away. Hopefully next upload, I don't know if I'll have one next week just because of everything going on, but yeah, just keep rolling with the punches. We'll figure it out. So I actually just got my rack and pinion in. That'll be an install as well. It's a TRZ one, so that'll be coming up in the near future. But my main focus is just figuring out these cylinder heads and getting this motor back together. So yeah. Anyways guys, as always, Like, comment, definitely hit that subscribe button if you have not already. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. See you guys.